Something's seriously off with Rachel Zegler's career, and Hollywood's starting to notice. Why are big names like Francis Lawrence and Steven Spielberg reportedly backing away from her? What went wrong on the sets of West Side Story and the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes? Crew complaints, production delays, and bad press seem to be piling up. Then there's the flop of Snow White. Is this the end for her? Something big is stirring in Hollywood. This time it involves two of the most respected directors in the business and a rising star whose future is suddenly looking shaky. Francis Lawrence, who directed blockbuster films like Catching Fire and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and Steven Spielberg, the legendary filmmaker behind classics like E.T. and Jurassic Park, are reportedly cutting ties with Rachel Zegler. Not just cutting ties, but stepping back in ways that suggest something serious happened behind the scenes. Rachel Zegler shot to fame quickly. Right out of high school, she landed the lead role in West Side Story, a huge opportunity that many actors spend years chasing. That performance earned her awards, attention, and a place in Hollywood's spotlight. But while the public saw a young actress on the rise, stories from inside the sets painted a different picture. It wasn't just one project or one disagreement, it was a pattern that quietly grew louder among the people who matter most in the industry. Things reportedly started to get complicated during the filming of West Side Story. Concerns began spreading through the crew and creative teams. There were complaints about constant pushback in direction, tension during rehearsals, and resistance when asked to adjust small things like lighting or camera positions. Frustrations built up quietly at first, but by the time awards season arrived and public comments started to surface, patience behind the scenes had reportedly run out. Instead of praise and future offers, conversations about Zegler began to include serious warnings. Not in public interviews or social media posts, but in the quiet, powerful circles where real decisions get made. Names were being removed from casting lists. Messages were shared in private, urging caution. A few months later, the pattern appeared again, this time during the filming of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Behind the polished marketing and movie trailers, people were again talking about delays, disagreements, and an atmosphere that felt tense on set. Then came interviews that made the situation worse. A single quote suggesting some directors couldn't handle strong women hit harder than expected. It wasn't forgotten, something feels off when someone who used to be everywhere in Hollywood suddenly disappears from conversations. And that's exactly what's happening with Rachel Zegler. Just a short time ago, she was seen as the next big thing, making headlines with her lead role in West Side Story, a film that pulled in awards and gave her massive momentum. Big studios lined up to work with her, she was cast in projects by Disney and Lionsgate, and she quickly gained millions of followers across social media. But now, it's quiet. Not the kind of quiet that signals a break, this feels more like a full stop. Industry insiders say the shift didn't happen overnight, it started with behind-the-scenes warnings, things most fans never heard about. Calls unanswered, meetings cancelled, and names taken off casting shortlists. Zegler's team reportedly worked overtime to keep her name out there, pushing for auditions and meetings that just weren't happening. And the numbers told part of the story. Her public engagement dropped across platforms, her Instagram follower growth slowed, and posts that once brought in thousands of comments now struggle to reach half that. Meanwhile, studios like Warner Bros. And Paramount, once keen to build projects around her, quietly pulled back. Then came her attempt at a comeback with The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a film with a budget reportedly close to $100 million and led by director Francis Lawrence, who had already made the Hunger Games franchise a global hit. The pressure was high and expectations were even higher, but what should have been a triumphant return turned into a source of more bad buzz. According to multiple leaked set reports, Zegler clashed with crew members, caused filming delays, and allegedly demanded script rewrites that derailed the production schedule. Shooting days ballooned from 10 to over 15 hours. A crew member claimed production assistants were quitting mid-shoot due to the work environment, and it all led to the set being nicknamed The Zone, not for action but for chaos. When the film hit theaters, the reviews were sharp. Variety reported that test screenings showed her character didn't resonate with audiences. Critics described her performance as flat, and social media echoed those reviews. Twitter, now X, exploded with reactions, with one post getting over 200,000 likes, mocking her emotional delivery. On Rotten Tomatoes, audience scores dipped lower than expected, with comments pointing specifically at her portrayal of Lucy Gray Baird. It's hard not to notice how fast things have changed for Rachel Zegler. Not long ago, her name was everywhere. Movies, red carpets, interviews, magazine covers. She was seen as the next big thing, someone studios were ready to build around. But by the end of 2024, that bright future started to dim in ways that felt sudden and serious. People inside the industry were talking, but not in the way they used to. There were whispers of behind-the-scenes issues, conversations that didn't reach the public but spread quickly inside studios. Filmmakers began quietly pulling back, and her name started dropping off shortlists. Then something happened that many say sealed her fate. After finishing The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds Snakes, two of Hollywood's biggest directors had a private conversation that ended up being heard by the wrong person. That call, meant to be off the record, leaked out and spread like wildfire. What started as a quiet complaint turned into a full-blown industry warning. A phrase that came out of that talk, something insiders now call the Zegler effect, became a kind of unspoken label. And once that kind of label sticks, it can be very hard to shake. Studios like Warner Bros., Universal, and Paramount all started stepping back. Projects that once looked promising suddenly stopped moving. In early 2025, everyone looked to Snow White as her chance to turn things around. Disney had poured around $350 million into the live-action remake. The stakes were sky high, but when the film opened, it flopped. The box office numbers were brutal. Only $43 million domestically in the opening weekend, making it one of the worst openings for any Disney princess film ever. Behind the scenes, things were tense. Comments Rachel had made in past interviews about the original film and her opinions on certain characters rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way. The fallout from Snow White was huge. Variety reported Disney lost around $115 million on the project. The usual media headlines weren't focused on the film itself, they were focused on her. Even her social media activity was being closely watched. Now, when producers meet to talk about casting, her name barely comes up. And if it does, it's usually followed by a sigh or a quick move to another option. She doesn't have any new movies lined up after Snow White. Her only upcoming role is in a stage production of Evita on London's West End, scheduled from June to September 2025. That gig feels less like a career move and more like a quiet retreat. Her team is still trying to turn things around, emails are being sent, phone calls are being made, but no one's biting. Do let us know about your views in the comment section below, and for more such amazing videos, do subscribe to our channel.